This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back. Hey, I forgot to do a mic check and all that stuff, but I hope it works. Welcome back to the Combat Footage Show. My name's Ronnie. I'm not muted. It's good to see you. Hit the like button, drop a comment in the chat, because here we go. Welcome back. Hello. That's good. Where you at? It's not my birthday. Fuck you guys, man. We'll talk about the birthday stuff here in a second, but come on. Where's everybody at tonight? If you're wondering about our opening music, it's from Kill Streak. And thank you to Kill Streak very much. So we've got Northern Ireland in the chat. What's up? The Hague. Texas, how are you? I just left your neck of the woods. Yeah, everything's very tan in Texas. It's like a tan filter on everything. The last time I was in Texas, I think I was at Bliss for some training, and I mobbed out of Fort Hood my first deployment. Anyway, who else we got? Arizona, Florida, actual Florida man in the house. Alberta, what's up? West Virginia, Oklahoma. It's good to see you. Welcome back to the Combat Footage Show. Sorry I wasn't here Friday. We were doing stuff. Let's see what I was doing on Friday. We're going to start off with some video today. So thank you very much to Donut, the AK guy, Demolition Ranch, for having us out at his ranch. Here we go.
I saw you getting ready. You're like, oh, it's like, oh,
I had an awesome time. It was great. There were a ton of people there. So thank you to them once again for the invite. We appreciate it very much. Josh was there too. His big ol' ass with all the little tiny full autos. It was like he was holding one, those toy guns that you can buy, and they still operate. It basically looked like that. So that's where I was Friday. Let's also talk about another schedule change here. I've told you guys to be a little bit flexible and patient with me, especially this month. We have a new family member joining the internal fire team at my house this week. So this will be the only stream this week. Now I'm hoping to be right back on the normal schedule early next week, starting Monday. But barring, anything unforeseen with the new family member arriving, the new baby, if you will, there's a possibility I might not be. I might not be back here until next Friday. I appreciate that. Go out there, have babies, establish internal fire teams. That way you can do Wolverine stuff as a family bonding experience. But it's good to see you. I'm happy to be back. I got to switch over to my alerts here. That way I can, catch all of your, babble. Thank you very much for the 269. Saw that coming. Thank you guys for being here, for all of your flexibility. The last thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is I'm asking for a lot of flexibility tonight, and I realize that. We're working through a major migration on the Funker site right now. This has been in the works, and we've been planning against this for some time, but there was an outage recently of one of the last third-party reliances that we have as a platform, as a video platform, as a host of use of force footage from around the globe. And there was another outage today that took us down along with it. So we're going to just do it ourselves. In the process of that migration, you guys are going to see some new things, namely a new player. That new player is going to have a whole lot of new capabilities in it, like automatic closed captions. That means that any video that gets uploaded, just about regardless of the language, it's going to automatically translate that video for you. No more looking for translated versions and all of that stuff. So we're in the process of that migration. We chose to just immediately go straight for the throat. It was going to be planned for a little bit later, but might as well just rip the Band-Aid off. Thanks for your patience once again. Let's talk about the show for tonight, though. We'll be talking primarily about Israel tonight. It'll be a relatively quick, straightforward show. There is some not safe for work stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to see tonight, namely some footage from the IDF that shows very close contact with Hamas. We'll see some footage from Hamas tonight with very close contact with IDF. We're going to start with a little bit of footage from an overall perspective, though. And when I say overall, the title ultimately is what I'm getting at here. I want to show you guys a satellite image. Before I left, I talked about Israel opening up a southern front. I wanted to share this bit of satellite footage for you. Satellite footage. It's not footage, it's a satellite photo, you stupid idiot. What you're looking at here is that southern front. Let's go over to the Institute for the Study of War. I want to show you guys how you can access their map that we use all the time. I'm a fan of theirs. You know, I've called. They haven't called back. You know, if they could just return my calls, be dope. But we're looking at right here, that southern front beyond the Wadi that was previously used as kind of a demarcation line, a nothing further than. Well, Israel has opened up that southern front and has begun pressing towards Khan Yunis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we will see footage from down here. In fact, we reviewed footage from there on Friday, and I said very specifically, yeah, I'm not sure why they're not including this on the map. They probably had an information cutoff. I don't know. You know, people get the chance to go home and drink a beer. I don't know, play video games, whatever they do after work hours, but they have started to include that. Now let's go back to this photo because I think it's really interesting, and there's some coloration here that I want to kind of explain. You can see how heavy Israel is rolling into Gaza here. This discoloration, that is barren ground from those IDF vehicles barreling into southern Gaza. This is the geolocation there, but what you're ultimately looking at is exactly what we see here. It is this location. So again, we'll see some footage from this, but I do, before we get to that footage, need to show you guys a piece of footage from inside of Israel, and it's quite honestly the most surreal video, the most humbling video, one of, at least, I have ever seen here. I tell you guys all the time that we appreciate you very much for watching the show. As it turns out, one of you might be watching the show right now from inside of Israel while you are being rocketed. It's a little bit wild. Check this out.
Sirens. Everything. If you can see it. No.
This is humbling, to say the least. To say the very least. Right?
Watching Funker while...
I'm actually wearing the same shirt. Maybe he's watching this in the future, and it's actually this show tonight that he's watching. My man, we have contact with you. Just so you know, we're going to be launching some merch here soon. We're going to get you, some cups and a t-shirt or something, Thanks for watching. I don't have any better words for that. Let's jump into the footage that we have tonight. We're going to be starting just as with normal in the north, where Israel kind of continues to throw hands with Hezbollah. Let's head over to Google Earth. We'll take a look at where this footage takes place, and we'll get started on the combat footage for the night. Somebody told me that my map sound effects are good, so now you're going to have to listen to those pretty regularly. This would have taken place on or around 5 December. Something to keep in mind for those in the chat that might be new. I try to cover things in the time frame since the last time we've been live. So last time I was live was last Monday. That means that we're going to cover things all the way back to 5 December tonight. But this is where this series of footage took place. Here, Zebkini. Anyway, what we're about to watch is IDF strikes into Lebanon, reportedly targeting Hezbollah positions. But this perspective is going to be from on the ground. Listen to the audio here. Fast moving something there. We talked about the Spice 2000 last Monday. I just said when the last show was, there's a possibility that that's what we're seeing there. But some additional footage from on or around 7 December. And this would have been a bit closer to the Israeli border. Let me show you where that took place. Here. It's not really closer to the Israeli border. I just lied to you. At least I own that I lied to you. But I have two perspectives of this. The first one coming up for you now. And these strikes took place in Kounine. Another on-the-ground video. And then that second perspective, this is going to be, if I recall, kind of a bit more macro angle where we're going to be seeing the majority of that village or town as Israeli munitions fall on it. Now, something interesting that I hope you guys stick around on the show. One of the last things that we're going to talk about tonight is the proximity of Hamas positions to civilian areas and to even refugee areas. I'm going to literally show you that. The context that we don't have is what exactly is on the ground there. But the density in Gaza and, possibly in Lebanon, I'm speaking very specifically to Gaza right now, though. The density of possible adversary and militant locations to civilian populace is very tight. And I'm hopefully going to represent that for you a little bit later on in the show. All right. This is footage that's going to come from Hezbollah. Let's take you to Google Earth so you can see where this takes place. Targeting an Israeli fort here, this specific building. I'm not entirely certain what they targeted it with, but it was quite effective. That footage is coming up for you here in just a second. And I'm going to check in on all that support as soon as we get through this first Lebanon section. Well, Lebanese Hezbollah section. Around the 8th of December, if my information serves me correctly, which it might not. It might not. The links to all of tonight's footage are in the description. Sometimes I have a bit more footage than YouTube will allow me from the character limit perspective to put into the stream description. But the link for all of our footage tonight is in the stream description. So go and check that out. If I'm being an absolute idiot, please let me know. That's fine. Nobody said I was smart. on or around 10 December, we have Israeli strikes filmed by the IDF here. That footage is coming up for you now. Is Ronnie MAGA? Don't put me in a box. I don't like being in boxes. I'm claustrophobic. All right. Now let's bring it back up so I can check in on the support. Thank you guys for it. Stream's free, so you don't have to, be sending in money. Thank you for it. It's appreciated very much, but you don't have to do that. Being here, dropping a comment, dropping a like. Even if your comment says, Ronnie, I disagree with you, I just don't agree with what you just said. Great. Good. Yeah, that's awesome. That's called discourse. That's what we like. Anyway, missing your mom. Thank you for the $5. Double tap. Thank you for the $2. Hey, brother, where's the member join button at? It should be at the bottom of the chat. I want to say there's a little dollar sign down there. Something like that. I got your $6. Thank you for the $2. Much love and respect. Thank you very much for it. Paul, thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to the Funkers. Quo, thank you for the $10 for baby's birthday celebration. Thank you for that. We're excited. It's been almost 10 years since we've had a baby. So, this one, I think we're probably more nervous about this one than the last two. And we were young for the last two. But thank you for it. Brandon, thank you for becoming a member. Jim, thank you for the $10. Get it. Every day. Most days, at least. Isaac, thank you for the 9/11. Love the stream from the Arctic, Norway. I can't read today. And I got your $6. Thanks for becoming a member. Chad, thank you for the $5. Congratulations. Thank you. And Babel. Thank you for the $1.98. Let's move into the footage that I have from the West Bank. Now, there were reportedly there was a lot of activity reported in the West Bank over the last week or so. From a geolocated footage perspective, I wasn't able to find a whole lot. And I actually didn't even record any. So we're going to move straight into Gaza. Now, the first thing that I wanted to show you guys is actually a little bit more general footage, a couple firsts. So we're moving down into the Gaza section. I'm skipping over the West Bank. It's not that I have nothing significant to report because there is a lot of activity happening in the West Bank at the moment. But, there's only so much that I can collate into the show. I'll continue to keep an eye out for geolocated footage or footage that I can geolocate, even non-geolocatable footage. But we're going to jump into Gaza. This is a first. For the first time since beginning, Israel has rolled artillery into Gaza. These are 109s. I think the IDF has a different designator for those, though. 155 millimeter self-propelled howitzers. And speaking of other firsts for the IDF, at least firsts in a little while, we're going to talk for a second about logistics. The IDF has used a C-130 Juliet, using a really unique capability to resupply its troops down in Khan Yunis, if I'm not mistaken. Check this out. What they're using is the U.S. Joint Precision Airdrop System. Now, it might look like they're just kind of dropping pallets of stuff, willy-nilly all over the place, but these actually are GPS guided. So they're going to start to fall, and as they fall, they can steer themselves via GPS to a destination. Too many people talk about tactics and big bombs and, cool tanks, but ultimately, the employment of all of those things is enabled by logistics. There's a quote out there. Says something. I'm totally going to butcher this, and I think I'm just going to paraphrase it in my own words. Idiots talk about tactics. You know, really smart people talk about logistics. I want to say it's amateurs, you know, debate tactics, something along those lines. But logistics isn't something that's covered enough, especially in, you know, social media, the mainstream. It's all about shock and awe. What's going to get the most clicks? Israel using this capability is indicative of a much larger capability to wage war. One of our, as the United States, most surprising capabilities is we can stand up a Burger King anywhere in the world inside of 24 hours. That's logistics right there. Let's move on, though. Now, we're moving into some of the combat footage here. I don't know if I'd call this combat footage more... Well, let's take a look. We're headed to Qalqas. Oh, this is in the West Bank. I told you I had footage from the West Bank for you tonight. We're going to see footage of the IDF trying to detain a Palestinian man on or around the 5th. He's kind of struggling. Doesn't appear to be going willingly. And it appears as though he was shot. Discretion's advised on this one, but we'll talk through it a little bit once it starts. You might have already seen this, but we haven't covered it on the show yet. So what's about to happen here, and if I recall this footage properly, I might not. This guy here, this IDF soldier, is about to shoot him in the leg. Now, again, I'm not certain what the context is here. You know? Once again, this show, I told you that we were going to see some footage tonight. And this is, just to correct myself from earlier, the only footage that I have from the West Bank. Now let's move to Gaza. Now this would have taken place on or around 9 December. We're headed to here. This is going to be some footage. I have 2 videos of this specifically. Of what is likely, and what is, I think you can draw that conclusion, Hamas, along with other, because it's almost undoubtedly not all of them are Hamas, but Hamas and other military-aged males surrendering to the IDF. Now, as they're surrendering, some of them are turning in weapons. Now, this kind of made its rounds for a little bit, and I want to kind of talk about this for a moment. If I understand reports, again, I'm giving you the context that I have. Correct me on the context. But if I understand the background to a lot of this, they were instructed, these military-aged males, to arrive at this surrender location devoid of clothing so that they could be en masse checked for anything explosive. Some of them, Hamas specifically, were told to be carrying their rifles and magazines separately above their heads. Okay. Now, there is footage from the Gulf War, footage from Vietnam, footage from Afghanistan, footage from just about every war where the possibility of suicide vests and other explosives was present, where you see similar footage like this. This is not outside of normalities for this type of surrender, especially when you have to clear en masse this many possible POWs. This is not outside of the norm, but I have another perspective of this to show you. Coming up for you here. In a separate location. The ultimate point is that Hamas, which is very much so included in here, not all of them will be, many of them will though, is surrendering in droves to the IDF. Yeah, quit normalizing this. This isn't normal. Yeah, this is war. War sucks. War's gross. Yeah, that's been our fundamental mission, to help people try and understand the balance. And the difficulty is trying not to normalize it, right? How do you do that? How do you not normalize it whilst also still trying to help people understand the context around it? That's a struggle and a challenge that we've had since the beginning, and we're going to continue to have, I don't know, forever. Because we're not going anywhere, right? You can, though. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. Let's move forward. We're moving into Jabalia. Jabalia? Here. Hello. Please travel. Whoops. Here we go. Here. This footage is going to be, generally not safe for work. War is going to happen in this video. Just giving you a heads up, whoever that was right there. War's going to happen here. This is going to be the 931st engaged in close proximity with Hamas, and would have taken place, I want to say, on or around the 8th or 9th. I don't have an exact on that. Some very close range stuff here. Discretion advised. This is actually, as well, because I know some people ask this question, this is also the engagement from which our thumbnail tonight was taken. Back to the footage. Let's come back up, but we're going to go right back to the Nahal Brigade. And I believe I'm representing that properly. I believe the Nahal Brigade is the 931st, or the 931st is included in the Nahal Brigade. Here's some more footage from Jabalia, same area. Once again, discretion advised on this one. There will be deceased. They are engaged right now. here with Hamas. See that rifle there? Nahal is 933rd. Shaham is 931st. Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate that very much. All right. Let's come back up. Now we're going to move to the Golani Brigade in Shujaiya. This is an interesting one to watch. And a lot of you, I'm going to ask, I'm going to try to take your mind off the combat for a moment and just see if you could tell me what weapon system is being used here. Because you're probably wrong. Not that one. That one. First of all, I want to know which one of these poor bastards had to carry that thing up the steps. That's an MK-47, not an MK-19. You're welcome to go check that out. It's got some pretty interesting capabilities as kind of a progression, maybe, of the Mark 19, but it's an MK-47. Now, they are engaged. If you look closely, you can actually see the impacts out here on this building. I wish there was a way that I could slow this footage down. Oh. You can actually see the impact of at least one of these out there. His Rhino mount is in the way. They're shooting at some distance with that thing. There it is, right there. Anyway. That is the Golani Brigade in Shujaiya. We talked about the Battle of Shujaiya. 13 Israelis back in 2014, 2018. We talked about that on Friday. If you want to go back to Friday's stream, take a look at that. More from the Golani Brigade, though. We got some footage from Hamas coming up here in a moment. Come on. All right. Let's come back up. Now, I'm gonna label this one as generally not safe for work. I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know if you're at work. But you're going to see an extreme close quarters fight here with a barricaded shooter recorded by the 188th Brigade. Now, this was reported as a school. I couldn't find a geolocation for it, but I'm sure it could be geolocated, largely because of the skyline around it. So if you guys are tracking where this is, drop it into the chat. Let everybody know. Help provide context as a part of a larger community that's trying to better understand what's happening on the ground. I'll walk you through what you're seeing in this because at first glance, it might look like what so many claim all the time, that the IDF is just engaging nobody. There's a direct engagement here. Here you are. I'm going to play that back over again because you can actually see return fire from inside of that little shoot hole there. I see a comment there talking about these shutters. These are steel, some form of metal. Now, I don't know, you know, concealment is most certainly not cover. There's a difference. I don't know what thickness they are, whether they are resistant. Actually, you can see holes in them, right? You can, oh, you guys can't see that here. Check this out. So they are steel or some form of metal. I don't know, maybe. But it looks like they can be penetrated there. But they're not wood. Wooden. Wool. Bringing it back up. All right, bit of an intermission here. While I check in on the support, and then we have another intermission, controlled det to take a look at. What optic is on the M4s? That's on the tip of my tongue. Let me continue to think about it. Is it the Mi Pro? Let me continue to think about it, because Josh actually just got one. Josh has a Tavor, and he just built basically one out with that specific optic. I just drawing a blank on what it is. But thank you for the $10. Jonathan, thank you for the $10. Be able to comprehend how evil something is, it has to be learned. Normalizing isn't the issue. Not caring after learning. Don't normalize means don't want to know that evil exists. That's profound. Yeah, that's a great way of putting that, right? I still do think it's necessary for us to... There's a reason that I don't do, like... I only play music at the beginning of the show, that, you know, we try to show some funny stuff every now and then just to bring the mood back up. But there's a reason that this show isn't some high up-tempo, joke-laden show, right? Because what we are seeing is reality. And, I mean, if the purpose of this show is to help people understand war's reality, war's ultimate reality is that it is gross. And a lot of people have this over-dramatized version of it, this extremely honorable version in their brain that has been, you know, impressed upon them since being kids by Hollywood and by governments, and that's just not the case, right? So there's a reason that we do this show the way that we do. Thank you again for the $10. Knee High Spy, thank you for the 20. Discovered you about a month ago. Doing great work. Thank you for that very much. Much appreciated. Thank you for being here. Yes, and thank you again for the 20. Fat Jesus, thanks very much for the 4 months as a supporter. Appreciate that. Tim, thank you for the 214. Target, thank you for the $5. I read this one earlier and wanted to come back to it because it's that quote that I butchered. I just butchered. It is specifically, amateurs talk about tactics, but professionals study logistics. Thank you. Mason Courtney, thank you for the 1530. Happy birthday, baby. Yep. And Mission Your Mom, thank you very much for the 499. Any hard numbers on IDF equipment losses? That one's difficult. That one's really difficult, and we've talked about that before. I have yet to see the IDF publish anything specific on equipment losses, whether mission kills, mobility kills, just any of it. We know that some of it is going to happen. Right. What we don't know, especially given things like the Trophy Active Protection System, I don't think anybody has an idea of that. Now, we can even study Hamas footage. The problem with studying Hamas footage is we're going to see this in a little bit, it shows plenty of RPG shots toward and explosions at vehicles, but the signatures oftentimes match those of the Trophy APS. So we don't have any idea, to be honest with you. Now, from a casualties perspective, Israel does have a website dedicated to the fallen, and they are tracking those. I haven't checked in on it since the last time I reported on casualty figures for the IDF, and I want to say it was in the 380 range at that time. It would have been a couple weeks ago, though. So from a casualty perspective, Israel is reporting numbers, but from a total equipment losses perspective, I haven't seen that. And if I have seen it, it was in Hebrew, and I can barely speak and read my own language. So thank you very much for that question. And we're all caught up there. Intermission really quick. Big boom. Controlled detonation. Coming up for you guys. Now.
Yes! נשים למטה! Yes! קחו את זה!
היו הייתה אוניברסיטה.
חנוכה שמח, עם ישראל!
שנקרא נר ראשון.
חנוכה שמח לעם ישראל. חנוכה שמח ממסגרת טבעוני.
All right. Let's bring it back up. I want to correct something, or, well, clarify something. I said the word casualties. Casualties can include wounded. I am speaking to KIA. Israel is reporting KIA on their website. What that website is, I'd have to go back to my bookmarks on my other PC over there. But I just wanted to clarify that. There have likely been thousands upon thousands of wounded. So casualties in total would be an entirely different number. Let's move into some extremely not safe for work. Big time discretion advised here. What we're going to see is the aftermath of an Israeli airstrike in Deir el-Balah. Deir el-Balah here. So we're moving pretty far to the south, kind of right away here. Okay. The controlled det that we just watched. So this is exactly where we're headed here. The controlled det we just watched took place here. So this series of buildings is not there anymore. But once again, headed to the south as a part of that southern front. Once again, discretion is advised here. Coming up for you guys now. Now, there was a report that I read on this strike specifically that one of the reasons that the splash or sympathetic detonation afterwards, or there was a sympathetic detonation afterwards, is that this was targeting some form of ammunition cache. I could not find anything corroborating that. But that might explain why, especially with Israel's preferred use of things like Spice 2000 and even JDAMs, you have such a wide after effect there. Those munitions are designed to be extremely precise, especially Spice, to within a 3-meter circular error probable. Israel has preferred the use of Spice. We covered that last Monday, and we talked about some of its capabilities. But once again, I'm only relaying the context that I have. Right. Let's move from that one. And we're going to head into Khan Yunis. We've got some on-ground footage from the IDF here. And I don't think this one is all the way into Khan Yunis. I think we're still just outside. Oh, no. Yeah, we're inside. We're inside the city. Oh, it's going to be here, where we're going to see the IDF moving to and clearing through buildings. Now, this isn't going to be a firefight-laden footage, but it does show an on-the-ground perspective of IDF troops in the south. Stand by. I copied the wrong video here. Well, we're going to have to watch the next one that I recorded, which is actually kind of a dystopian type video. What you're hearing in the background here, and I screwed up the copy paste on that link there. I could go back and grab it while we're watching this one. In the background here, you're going to hear a gunfight happening. Meanwhile, a Palestinian woman and her child on a donkey cart are going to be transporting somebody that's seriously wounded or possibly deceased. So, discretion's advised here. This is also in Kounine.
هاي شهداء كمان هاي شهداء لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله راحت الدبابة
Let's come back up because I do have the right link for the footage of the IDF on the ground in Kounine. That video is coming up for you now. And let's bring it back up. Now we're gonna still be watching a little bit of footage here, but we're actually gonna be talking about the UN's posture in the south near the Egyptian border. So I'm gonna come back to Google Earth here, okay? And we're gonna head further to the south to the UN site that's housing refugees, which is here, okay? Now this doesn't do a great representation of seeing that, but what I do have is some satellite imagery of that. So let me show you what that location looks like. So here in this photo, you can see many refugees. You see the UN sign there. Okay, so we'll head back to Google Earth for a second. I want to help you understand the proximity of this location to at least positions that were previously used by Hamas. We have to go really far on the map to right here. Now, this location was the training grounds used by Hamas for their operation on the 7th. Specifically, I shouldn't say specifically, there are multiple videos that have been geolocated to that location like this one. This is not new footage, but we have watched it here. We watched it back when it was released. This is Hamas. In spitting distance of where that UN compound is. I'm going to cover why I'm talking about this here in just a second. I'm going to turn the music off because I don't know if that's copyright or anything. Copywritten. Now, let's talk about why we're talking about this, right? This isn't necessarily to say that the UN is purposefully sitting next to Hamas training grounds. I have no idea if Hamas is still using that area from a training perspective. It's, in fact, quite unlikely that they are. It's really to talk about the proximity of known Hamas positions to refugee areas. Now, imagine, if you will, that there are small buildings in this area that you can see on the map. Imagine, if you will, that the IDF were to strike those areas. Just put that in your brain for a second, and then imagine the public narrative to that being so close to a UN location that suddenly the IDF was specifically targeting that UN position and that refugee camp. The density and close proximity of everything in Gaza means that there will absolutely be strikes from the IDF, wherein they are very close to, if not in some cases, immediately adjacent to where people are sheltering. I'm hoping that helps you kind of understand why, when you see footage of a strike, I'm not asking you to, or telling you, I'm not here to do that. Again, I'm here to contextualize things. But I'm hoping that helps you understand why there's a likelihood that when Israel is striking a lot of these locations, they are not specifically targeting a UN compound, as is claimed by so many that are out there, even the UN themselves. They are oftentimes, as far as the information leads us and as far as the data supports, targeting known or previously used Hamas positions, such as this massive training ground that was used to effectively train the fighters that were used to invade Israel and commit all of those acts of terrorism, because that's ultimately what it was. Hamas meets all of the definitions of terrorists based on their activity on October 7th. I am not calling Palestinians terrorists. I'm calling Hamas terrorists, and more specifically, the Al-Qassam brigades. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole here that maybe we could do on the follow-up show, because we're already towards the end of tonight's show. We have some Hamas footage to look at, though. Now, I don't have a geolocation for this, but this is one of Hamas's latest releases, and it shows, it's quite a long one, and we're going to watch all of it. It shows very close proximity targeting of the IDF. Discretion's advised. We don't see a whole lot of what happens after all of this, but here is one of two videos that I have as releases from Hamas. Now, I want to pause for a moment here, because this is actually maybe only the second or third drone drop video that I have seen from Hamas. The first was very early in Israel's movement into Gaza, and I'm very surprised that we don't see more of this. Now, I don't know if that is a function of Israel's siege of Gaza, wherein they are not able to bring in drones, but we see the propagation and propensity to use drones in a peer v peer conflict like we have in Ukraine. Here, we see very little use of drones. If you guys have seen something different while this is continuing, I'll hang out in the chat with you. Let me know. Just a note. Nah, drones were caught in humanitarian aid trucks. Only 4 days ago, 50 drones and attachments for grenades were caught. Yeah, so that actually speaks to what I just said. Is I don't know if the lack of drone footage that we see is a function of the siege, i.e. not being able to receive drones to use them, right? I haven't seen that report specifically, so I'm not validating or, I'm also not saying that it isn't accurate. Just kind of responding to it specifically. Yeah, the note about the trophy and activation distance we've talked about a little bit before. And I think without having access to the true capability documentation of the trophy system, it's so hard to tell. We can't even really truly, I mean, this is really close. Like he could have spit and hit that vehicle. So there's at least some likelihood that the trophy didn't activate there, but I can't be certain. And I don't think anybody really can without access to what would theoretically be classified capabilities of the Windbreaker trophy. 50 meters is actually a rumor, Robbie. We talked about that. So there was a rumor that was spread amongst Hamas fighters that if they were inside of 50 meters, then the trophy wouldn't be able to intercept it. The things that come to mind there are the possibility of that nested, purposeful narrative. But that's just what like the Wikipedia page says. Again, the published capabilities of things. There's a reason that people keep burning, state secrets in things like War Thunder, lobbies and such. The publicly available information is typically going to be bare minimums of capabilities, right? You'll have classified capabilities, everything from range on, missiles and like the HIMARS, probably has a range. GMLRS probably has a range beyond the 70 kilometers that it's touted. But the publicly available information is typically going to be minimums, to be honest with you. And I don't think that anybody outside of those who have access to that really know how close you can be, and Trophy will still intercept the things that it's designed for. It's not designed for things like Sabo, right? Tank projectiles, things like that. But it is designed very much so for RPGs. It's designed very much so for anti-tank guided missiles. Even tandem warhead RPGs. Tandem warhead RPGs are more for passive protection systems, not necessarily active protection systems, just by function of the design of an active protection system. And the way the trophy actually works is it wouldn't matter if it had a tandem warhead, because it's going to shoot chaff at that warhead and intercept the entirety of it. The tandem warhead RPGs, the big dong sticking out of the front of it, are meant to impact that first layer of passive protection, like contact, like some of the more advanced armor protections, and effectively weaken it so that the primary warhead can then exploit it. Anyway, we're kind of diving into something that I don't claim to have any expertise in. I have a very surface level understanding of both sets of capabilities. I'm not an armor guy. One more release from Hamas, and that'll bring us to our last video for the night. We have a short show tonight. Actually, that was our last video. My links are all... That's not our last video. I always have one more video for you. Okay, I need to check in on the support, though, before I show you the last video, and I'm going to hold my own country accountable here on this last one. Checking in on the support, and thank you for it. Torque, thank you for the $2. UN is a hive of terrible people and organizations. Thank you again for the $2. Torque, thank you for the $5. Ronnie, can we crowdfund for the tasking of a satellite for places like Gaza or Ukraine? There are plenty of geospatially oriented analysts all over the internets, the WWWs, that do specifically that. I'll see if I can potentially recommend a few. I do follow a few of them, but without actually listing them out and looking back, it'd be difficult for me to rattle them off of the brain. Cat Cosmonaut, thanks for becoming a member. Kiwi, thank you for the $5.50. London Water, thank you for the $10. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. D-Rock, thank you for the $10. Again, for the question, what optic is on those M4s? My brain never did connect that. We can evaluate that on the follow-up show, where this show is going to automatically redirect you in the chat. So it's going to prompt the chat and say, would you like to go with the rest of the heathens over to the post show, where we'll also talk a little bit more and review some footage from my weekend at Range Day out at Demolition Ranch, which was awesome, by the way. But I got one more video for you. And just remember, on your way out the door, that in a CQB type situation, it's typically going to be safer to just drop a hellfire on it. Okay? When in doubt, blow it up. Good night. Stay informed, and just send a rocket in there next time. You're a point man for a reason. Be the point man. Good night.